My name is Auret van Heerden, and I work on business and human rights questions in global value chains. So the first question I want to answer is, how do we get business and human rights taken seriously in companies? And I think the first thing we've got to do is we've got to move it out of this compliance box that it's in. Right now it's kind of like anti-bribery and corruption. It's responsibility of somebody. There are a bunch of boxes that need to be checked, and it's compartmentalized in that way. It's not part of the business ethics of the company. It's not part of the culture of the company. It's not an integral part of the way the company makes money. And that's where it needs to be. Second question then is, how would you leverage that? And I think that there are a number of factors which have made that very hard, namely the global supply chains which stretch around the world, which are opaque and where there's very little visibility and oversight, and the fact that companies have been competing in markets which are price driven and where there have been unfortunate trade-offs between price and cost and human rights. A lot of that is changing right now. It's changing because we've got a millennial consumer. The average age of the consumer is maybe 26 or something nowadays. They have much more concern about the environment, about human rights, about purpose in life. They would like to see companies which are conscious, which are responsible. Maybe stakeholder capitalism is coming back into style. And this creates an environment in which we can actually have a new conversation about responsibility, the responsibility of business towards the environment, towards society and human rights. And the COVID-19 crisis has enhanced that, because under the lockdowns, when a lot of people were not working or were at a reduced level of engagement, people had time to reflect. And a lot of people are asking questions about these crazy global value chains which we have and the conduct of companies within them. There's been a lot of discussion about companies which unilaterally cancel supplier contracts, or who've refused to pay suppliers even for work that was completed, or who are insisting that suppliers take a 50% discount in order to get paid. And so consumers are asking themselves, how come their favorite brands are behaving in such an obviously unfair manner? And I think this will create a new debate about the social license to operate. What are the levels of social and environmental responsibility that a company needs to maintain, achieve and maintain in order to keep its social license to operate? Once the COVID-19 crisis passes, and I believe it might take 2 or 3 years to pass, but once it does, this pent-up energy that we saw going into things like the climate strikes, the energy that has been going into the massive social unrest in places like Chile or Lebanon and Tunisia and Hong Kong and even France with the Gilets jaunes, a lot of that energy is going to be asking, do we go back to business as usual? Do we simply resume the type of economic activity that we had before with all of the collateral damage that that implies? Or do we now regulate a lot of those issues? And I do believe that there's a wave of sympathy, public sympathy, for the most exposed members of the workforce, the most precarious, those who've been in the front lines, in fact, of the COVID crisis. There will be new protections legislated to ensure that those people are not as susceptible to exploitation as they are at the moment. And I think this the combination of the new consumer awareness and the regulators' willingness to protect workers will actually raise the debate about business and human rights and offer opportunities for us to make some important advances.